Hi, I'm Alison from Move Smart Movement and the Osteoporosis Move Smart Method. Today we're going to do a totally spine-safe hamstring and glutes workout. You will need a bolster or some yoga blocks, something that you can use to get your feet up a little bit higher off the ground, and a stretchy band or some weights when it comes to doing some deadlifts. We're going to start on the ground. We're going to begin our workout with a little warm-up for the backs of your hips with a gentle hip lift. So come on down to the ground, remembering that when you have spine stuff, you want to be mindful of how you get up and down from the floor. And keep your feet a little bit away from your hips. We're going to try and get lots of hamstring activation today. Pulling your feet in really close to your hips is not going to give you that same work in the backs of your legs. So a little space is great. Really feel the tripod of your feet, the centers of your heels and across the balls of your feet, arms down on the floor. Take a breath in, and on the exhale, press your feet into the ground and lift your hips straight up, keeping your chest and your shoulder blades heavy on the floor, and slide back down. So we're not going really high. We're going to do 10 of these. Nice and slow, contained and controlled. Think of pulling your heels back towards your hips rather than pushing your feet towards the wall behind you, or in front of you rather. Pushing your feet forward is going to make you feel this more in your thighs and the fronts of your legs. And thinking about pulling your heels back towards your butt is going to give you more hamstring and glute work. And we're going to go for another 3 of these. 3, 2. On this last one, come on up and stay up if you can. Otherwise, you come down and take a break. Keep that idea of pulling your heels back towards your hips so you don't slide. Reach both arms to the ceiling and add a little toy soldier motion. One arm coming up to your hip, or down to your hip, and one up to your ear. Nice, smooth, easy slide. You take your arms only as far back as is good and comfortable and happy making for your shoulders. So it might be quite a small motion, and that's totally fine. One more in each direction. And then come on back to center, bring your arms down and bring your hips down. And hopefully that feels like that's warming up the backs of your legs already, because now we're going to do a single leg hip lift. So really good strong plant of your feet. Take a breath in, breathe out, press your hips up off the floor. And then we have a couple of options here. You can either lift one heel and just float that foot off the floor and alternate from side to side if that feels like the best option for you. Or you can bring one leg right up to tabletop and slide your hips down to the floor and press back up. And slide down to the floor and press back up. And shockingly, we're going to do 10 of these as well. 4, 5. We're still keeping your chest and shoulders nice and heavy. This is not intended to be a back exercise. It really is intended to be work for your legs and your hips. Last one. Bring your hips down, bring your leg down. And if you're just lifting and lowering one heel at a time, you can also bring your hips down and take a little moment. And then you'll continue to do that while we do the other leg. Take a breath in. Use your exhale to fuel connecting into your pelvic floor, connecting into the wrap of your trunk muscles, and pulling your feet into the ground as you lift your hips. Bring your left leg up to tabletop, and we're going to do the same thing. We're holding this 90-degree angle at your knee as you lower and lift to whatever height feels right for you, which might be only a tiny little bit off the floor, and that's really okay too. For extra bonus points, you can check and make sure that your pelvis is level with the ceiling. Even though you only have one foot underneath you, you don't want to be dropping your other hip down towards the floor. And we'll go for 3 and down, 2 and down. Last one, come all the way to the floor, bring your foot down or bring your heels down, and now we're going to have a bit of a stretch time. So we are looking for an inner thigh stretch. You want both feet pulled in towards each other and actively connecting, and then your knees out to the sides. We're going to hang out here for a couple of minutes. And so I want you to think about a few things while we do this. One is you might be more comfortable with something under your head, right? A cushion, a mat, fold up the back of your mat, a towel, something that's softer under your head. I would love it if you could feel the bottom of your rib cage just resting into the ground as you're in this position. For some people, when the knees come out to the sides, the chest and spine also lift. And so we want to keep that weight down. If you can't do that with your legs unsupported, then you can put your hands under the backs of your legs. And if you want more support than that, you can grab, again, sofa cushions, rolled up towels, rolled up blankets, fitness ball, yoga blocks, anything that's going to provide you with enough support that your legs can come out to the side comfortably without making your body want to freak out and without having your ribs lifting. So if you have needed to go and collect some props, then you can pause the video and hold for a little bit longer. Otherwise, we're going to stay here for another 2 breaths. Nice, easy inhale. And nice, easy exhale. And last one. Bring your legs back up. And now we're going to go for a stacked cobbler, which is where you have one. So it's a stacked inner thigh stretch. So bring your left foot over in front of your right hip and let that knee rest out to the side. And then take your right foot and put it on top of your left calf, anywhere from your knee down to your ankle, depending on what works for you. And you can probably feel right away that this is a more complicated position than the one where we just had our feet together. So lots of people like to have some bolstering here. Again, yoga block, cushion, fitness ball, whatever you need to support the backs of your legs, partly to make sure that your ribs are staying on the floor, and partly to make sure that you're not feeling an excessive amount of strain or pressure either on your inner thighs or your outer hips. So you do whatever you need to do to prop your legs. If your legs are hanging out up here, I'd really like you to put something under the outsides of your legs in order to support them. So we'll hang out here for another couple of breaths. And again, this last 2 breaths, you can make them really nice and intentional. So breathe in through your nose, nice open expansion of your ribs, and then just let the breath go. And again. And then carefully bring your legs back up. And we're going to change over and do that on the other side where it probably won't feel the same. So you bring your right foot in front of your left hip and let that leg roll out to the side. And then you put your left foot on top of your right calf. Again, anywhere from your ankle right up to the fold of your knee. And you let that relax. So you can often feel this is tighter or looser. Your ribs pull up off the ground more or less. And so you do whatever you need to do. Pop your fists under your legs, put props under your legs. Do what you need to do to make sure that this feels like a rewarding and useful and comfortable position rather than something that feels like it's putting too much pressure on your joints or too much pressure on your tissues. As I said, this is a more complicated position than the straight up inner thigh stretch. And so if you would rather just do the inner thigh stretch, that is totally okay with me. Otherwise, we're going to hang out here for just a little bit longer, really feeling for the weight of your leg bones dropping deep in your hip sockets, allowing for as much support as you need to feel no excess pressure in the backs of your hips. Inner thigh stretch, totally fine. Unpleasant pressure in the backs of your hips, we're not looking for that. And again, we'll take our mindful last 2 breaths. And then pull your legs up. Take your feet wide. Just do a nice, easy windshield wiper. Slide one knee in, slide the other knee in, just so that we go in the opposite direction from that fairly intense stacked cobbler that we just did. And then having done that, we will roll over onto our sides and we'll work the sides of your hips. So it's important here that you get your trunk organized. We want to have some core effort, some core support and stability, and core meaning front and back muscles. So think about easing the backs of your ribs towards the wall behind you so that you're in a pretty straight line from your chest to your ribs to your pelvis. You can feel your stomach muscles have drawn in a little bit and that your ribs are lined up with your pelvis. You keep your bottom leg straight or bent, rather, for balance. And then right from the side of your hip, press your leg up and slide back down. We're doing 10 of these, and we want to keep your leg traveling straight down from your hip socket, and you really want to work your side butt. If your leg comes too far forward, you'll have more apparent range, but you won't be using your side hip nearly so much. So even though you're maybe lifting less high, hopefully you can feel this is targeting your lateral hips more effectively. Last 2, and then we're going to go into a circle. Same thing, keep that side hip really working. Use the glutes for the back of the circle, and your core muscles stop you from rocking forward and backwards. Eight, 9, 10, and then change directions. 10, 9, 8, 7, and count on down from 6, 3, 2, and 1 more. And then you bring that leg down, and we're going to flip over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we do the same setup, getting your core organized, getting your pelvis nice and stacked, really feeling for that work in the side of your hip, lift and lower. One of the tricks here is to make sure that your pelvis is not coming up towards your ribs as you lift your leg, because that will also rob you of some fabulous and valuable side butt work. Last 2. And then we have this little extra bit of core work keeping your balance as you come into your circles. Last 3. And change directions. Again, leg long and straight, pressing into your glutes for the back of the circle and using your stomach and back muscles to maintain the stability of your upper body so you don't rock back and forth as you make your circles. Two more. And then come on down and let that leg rest. So now we're going to level up a little bit, and we're actually going to go up. So this is where you want your bolster or your yoga block or a chair or the bottom step of a staircase, just something that's going to bring your feet. If you're going to use a yoga block, you maybe want 2 yoga blocks that are the same height, or a stack of books. You want something that you can have your legs hip distance apart. Taking your feet up off the ground makes this more difficult. So we're going to start with 10. Just the same hip lift we did at the beginning, but now the elevated hip lift is a little bit more challenging. So super anchor your feet, nice long line through your spine. We are absolutely trying to hinge your hips up. There's no rolling of your pelvis, and hinge your hips back down. Really feel that connection into the back of your legs. These are your hamstrings here, in your lower glutes, maybe into your upper glutes, depending on how high you're going, but not working to lift your chest off the floor. Keep your shoulder blades nice and heavy. Last 2. So now come on back up, find your nice stable, sustainable spot. And we're going to go for 10 bend and stretch and 10 lower and lift. So a bend and stretch is just this. Bend and stretch. You stretch as far as your hamstrings will allow. 3, 4, 5, keeping your pelvis nice and level. 6, 7, 8, 9, and one more is 10. Bring that leg down, bring your hips down. Take a breath in. On the exhale, contract your pelvic floor, contract your abdominals, gather your core strength, push your feet into whatever your lifting surface is. Bring the other leg up, pelvis stays nice and stable. Lengthen and lower. Straighten and bend. 5, 6, 7, 8, and last 2. And of course, you're straightening your leg only as much as your hamstrings will allow, right? You don't have to do exactly what I do. Bring that leg down, bring your hips down. Now we're going to go for lower and lift. And again, you're going to make your range match your abilities. And you could be doing all of this with your feet on the floor. You don't have to go for the elevated position of your feet. Press your feet down, come back into your bridge, bring one leg to tabletop and straighten as much as your hamstrings will allow. So super stable through your pelvis. Exhale to lower your leg down only as far as you can go, being nice and solid through your pelvis, and inhale to come back up. And breathe out and breathe in. Use that exhale to create the stability that your leg comes up and down from. Two more. We're looking for the smoothest, least clunky range you can get. Even if that means you're keeping your knee bent and you're only moving a little bit, that's totally okay. Foot down, hips down. Bring your bolster back in towards you in case it's escaping. One more of these. Lift, leg comes up, straighten your leg. Now your leg stays as straight as is possible and practical for you. Exhale to lower, inhale to lift. Bring your hands up, check for your pelvis to be nice and solid and stable and planted. Feel for that weight of your shoulder blades on the floor. Check in with your neck, you can relax your neck. Last 2. And last 1. Come on back up, bring that leg down. Come down. So the last thing we're going to do here with these lifts is a little pulse. So again, I'm not fussed about what height you're pulsing at. So you take a breath in, you come to whatever feels like your best, strongest in your legs position, which might only be a couple of inches off the floor, or it might be higher, but it definitely doesn't mean taking your shoulder blades off the ground. And then from there, we'll do 10 little extra pulses up. 10, 9, 8, press your feet down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then come on back down. So now let's have a little stretch. Bring your right ankle over your left knee and take a little moment. Feel the weight of your pelvis and your shoulder blades on the floor. This might be a place again where you want to do a little support behind your head because you're not lifting your hips anymore. And you can either just keep your legs here or you can bring your leg in towards your chest. And again, you can hold this for a couple of minutes. Really feel your sit bones spreading wide and heavy and open, right? We're not trying to roll onto your lower back and pull your pelvis towards your chest. So if you're tight through your legs and your hips, you might want to hold on to your pants and let your leg come down a little bit so that your pelvis stays level on the floor. And what we're really moving is your legs in your hip sockets rather than a combination of your legs in your hip sockets and your pelvis together. One of the things that you can check for here is is your left knee, your supporting leg, is that knee pointing straight up towards the ceiling, or is it tending to pull in towards the midline? So if your knee is pointing off towards the right, that's going to diminish the amount of stretch you get in that right leg. So we're trying to keep your left or supporting leg really vertical. And then we can change over and do the other side. I'm just guesstimating my 2 minutes here. Often it's a different stretch from side to side. Usually we're more mobile on one side and less mobile on the other. So that works out just fine. You do whatever you need to do. So again, you can start with your leg down on your stair or your bolster or your yoga block. Find a little settling, get that nice anchoring of your pelvis. Feel for where your sit bones are and pointing towards the wall in front of you, so that when you bring your legs up, you're not inadvertently skipping right past and going into your lower back. You can check for your right leg now to be straight up towards the ceiling. And another strategy I like, if you know that you're stiff and this is not going to work for you, is to bring this leg down and just hold on to your leg, or wrap a yoga strap around your supporting leg, in this case your right leg, so that you're only halfway up, right? And you can bring your leg down closer to the floor, but still have lots of support. And we're going to think about relaxing the back of your neck and your jaw and the backs of your ribs and your lower back. And then you can unhook your leg, and we have 2 choices now. You can just be done with this series and know that you've done a fantastic workout for your hamstrings and the back of your hips, or you can finish with a deadlift/hip hinge. So if you're familiar with deadlifting and hip hinging and you want to carry on, we're going to do that. Otherwise, I hope you had a lovely leg workout, and I'll see you for the next one. I'm going to show you 3 different options for our deadlift exercise. The first one we're going to do with a stretchy band. You will stand on the band. You want to have a band that's got a little bit of resistance to it. And you hold your hands next to your knees. You stick your butt out with your spine nice and long. Keep your shins as vertical as you can, as straight up and down as you can. And stand up, bringing your pelvis straight up over top of your heels. Come back down and press up. You're keeping your feet spread really wide and planting into the floor. And the key here is to not move your knees forward in space. So it's not like a squat where you would be bending your knees towards your toes. So that's one option that you can use. Another option is to go with weights that feel like the right amount of weight for you, to be challenging so that you can do 8 to 12 repetitions of the exercise with good form and be tired at the end of it. So again, the key is this straight up and down shins. So you have the weights in your hands, you bend your hips back, spine stays long, and you slide the weights down your legs. How far do you go? You go only as far as you can go, keeping your spine long and your butt untucked. So if you get to here and you're like, I am now starting to bend my spine, we know that's not great form for your deadlift, but it's also not great form for those of us with osteoporosis. We want to keep that nice, long, straight spine. So again, you can go for as much weight as you can hold on to comfortably to do 8 to 12 repetitions of the exercise. When you're done, when you're using weights, you want to be mindful of how you bring the weights down. You keep your spine nice and long and you put the weights down close to your feet. If you want to use a bigger weight, you put that weight so it's starting directly between your feet. You hinge, send your hips back. We're still looking for these vertical shins. And then you press up using your glutes and hamstrings. And you hinge your hips, send your hips down and back, and you bring the weight down towards the middles of your arches. So again, you come down only as far as you can go, keeping that weight nicely centered between your arches with your spine long and your shoulders wide. So that might mean you only come as far as your knees and you come back up. You might come down and tap the weight to the floor and come on back up. Depending on what kind of weight you're using, that will dictate how far you need to go towards the ground. When you're done, the weight comes down, your spine stays long, and you come on back up. I hope you liked your hip workout. Let me know in the comments below how it went for you. If you liked this video, of course, hit like and subscribe. And if you'd like to hang out with me more, you can come and hang out in my private Facebook group for people with osteoporosis called Osteoporosis and Movement Solutions. I'll include the link down below. See you in the next one.